Hello again, everybody. We are going to cover another chapter in contemporary issues in special education. Today's chapter we are covering is chapter 12, and it talks about transitions. An introduction into transition is there are multiple types of transitions. School transitions, which occur from at home when they go to preschool, from preschool to kinder, and then from elementary to middle school to high school, and then high school to their post-secondary options. Transition, it refers to a coordinate set of activities for a child with a disability to fulfill the three requirements, which are their academics, their student needs, and their instruction. So a little bit more about transition plans is they are part of providing students with disabilities a free and appropriate public education. These transition plans are considered a service that we provide to these students with disabilities. This is a service that they need to be successful not only in their current school placement, but also in their eventual transitions, whether it be from middle school to high school, from high school to their post-secondary options, from elementary to middle school, whatever it might be. Some resources that students have with these transitions is their school counselors or counselors outside of school. We know that these transitions can be a huge stress on these students, especially those that don't really do well with change, and they're changing dramatically from whatever area they are currently in to their next area, whether it be a middle school, a high school, post-secondary option. It can be super stressful on these students, and us being able to implement this service to them and them being given the resources that they need to be successful in these transitions. The reason why I chose this chapter to talk about is this is something that I struggle with as a middle school special education teacher. It's something that I haven't had a lot of training on, and I do my best to help these students transition, but I feel like I need some practice, and I can better help these students transition with a little bit more trainings, a little bit more education on what transition services are. So I just kind of wanted to dive a little bit deeper and explore transition plans and how it can best help my students in the middle school setting. So I am helping students transition from elementary to middle school when they come to my SPED program. Then I am also going to try and implement a transition plan for these students once they hit 8th grade to go into the high school. Once they go beyond that, the transition plan's kind of out of my hands, but I want to do the best that I can do to help them transition in the areas that I help them that I am in. So there are tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of pros to transition plans. Number one, transition plans can help reduce stress for these students. Like I said, it can be a huge stress factor. These students going from these different areas in life and transitioning and learning new things and learning a new routine and learning a new environment. So it can help reduce the stress during those transition times. It can help them prepare for their future. So this is huge. Whenever they start thinking about transitions and understanding that they need to think about their future, it can help them kind of decide what they want to do, whether they want to go to college, they want to go to a trade school, they want to just jump right into a career, whatever it might be. This can help them think in the future and decide what they want to do in the future, and then we can help start them planning early on how they're going to best transition into those options and what we can do to help make the transition a smooth and enjoyable transition. What else it can do is it can help students meet their goals. So if they're not stressing super hard on their transition and it's a smooth transition, then they can focus more on achieving those goals that they have, whether it be academically, whether it be functional goal. Whenever we reduce those transition anxieties, we can improve their performance towards their goals. Number 4 is it can help them decide their plan for after high school. So if they are getting these transitions smooth and they're understanding how to transition and they're getting the support they need there, then they can decide maybe there's something more for me after high school, and they can decide what that transition might be, and we can support them in that. And number 5, it's going to help them develop independent living skills. So these transition plans have a huge impact on independent living skills. We're going to make sure that they can live independently, that all the resources that they need to live independently are given to them. So that's a huge, huge thing. I personally don't believe there's many cons to these transitions. The only con that I can think of is transition plans are really only implemented in students with disabilities. And I believe that a transition plan can help a huge range of students, whether they have a disability or not. I know that whenever I was growing up, I struggled with the transition, not so much from middle school to high school, but from high school to my post-secondary option. And I chose to go to a 4-year college and go into a degree, and that transition, moving far away from my home, far away from my family, learning how to live on my own, learning how to not only go from a high school schedule to a rigorous college schedule, but that transition was really hard for me. And I feel like if I would have had a little bit more support in high school preparing for that transition, I would have done better. So I feel like all students of all abilities, of all ages they can benefit from a transition plan, not just those ones that are in a SPED program, that have a case manager, that have service providers. I feel like all students can benefit from that. So that's my con. There's probably more cons, but I feel like transition plans are a huge, huge, huge part of a student's, not only their IEP, but their daily activities at school and away from school. Those transition activities, learning how to be independent, learning how to deal with stress and anxiety from transitions, learning how to be more independent and cope with things like that, and given the support that they need is super important for me. So there's a myth that I think of, and I kind of already covered it, but transition plans are not only beneficial to students on IEPs and students with service providers. I think that transition plans can help students in a 504 plan, students who don't have a disability at all and are just struggling with adjusting to a new environment and to a new life. So transition plans are super, super important. I plan on not only implementing these transition plans in my SPED program, but I want to further explore different types of transition plans, how I can best implement them for each individual student. This is something that I'm going to research. This is something I'm going to seek out training for, professional development, something that I feel is so important for these students that I feel like I'm not adequately giving to them right now as a second-year teacher. So this is something that I want to implement better in my program, and I feel like I can do that with a little bit more training, a little bit more research, and some professional development on it. So transition plans are huge, guys. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to hitting another chapter.